What up, Earthlings? Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, my name is Maren, and on my channel, we ride the spiral. So, as you can see by today's title, I'm making another video about the ego because the other night I was just outside, like grounding in nature, and I just had these aha moments and all of these thought drops, call it a download, whatever you want to say. I just had all these realizations about the ego, so I'm coming on here and sharing because I want to know what you guys think. And yeah, so in the spiritual community, the ego has been dubbed as such a negative word, right? Like, we're always learning how to get rid of the ego and the ego death. And it just made me think, like, who was the first person to ever say the ego was bad? And why? I mean, why? Are we not born perfect? Are we not born with everything that we need? If you are waking up to who and what we really are as a human race, how powerful we really are, why they've dumbed us down for thousands of years from birth. We know all of these things, and we know how powerful the human mind is, the human body. We know we are souls experiencing a human experience, not the other way around. So why do we think that that creator source gave us something that we need to get rid of? First of all, let's just start there. Why do we act like it's this negative thing? And let me explain to you why. And I started thinking of it this way. Our ego is our internal compass before we're awake. Let me repeat that. Our ego is our internal compass before we are awake. And let me explain what I mean. And I'm just going to tell you little personal examples in my life, just a couple, just so you get what I'm saying. So, okay. We're different people before we wake up, right? Or we're just kind of on autopilot going through the motions, right? Well, when I was younger, I liked to be tan. So I would lay in the sun as much as I could. Like when I got into my teens, okay? Like later teens, I wanted to be tan for like school proms and stuff like that, right? Let me get to the point here. So I would lay outside and tan all the time, right? Well, then I got a little bit older, still before I was awake. And, then I had to start worrying about like wrinkles and stuff like that. And then I was like, oh my God, I've ruined my skin by laying in the sun all these years. Like, God, like my superficiality ruined my skin. Okay, fast forward to being awake. I could make a whole video on the sun, and you don't have to agree with me, that's fine. But once you wake up to what the sun really is, you understand why people worship it as a god. The sun is so vital to us. I will make a whole video on it because it would just be, it's too much to even talk about in this video because it's a whole video in itself. Not only do we get downloads, it's literally our soul's food. Not to mention like the vitamin D, balancing our hormones, being in nature, grounding, all of that. See? So my pull to be in the sun had superficial reasons. But my ego, that internal compass, my superficiality, me wanting to be tan, guided me to lay in the sun, and now I know how beneficial the sun was. And there's a big correlation to how much sun people get and them waking up in this reality. The sun literally wakes us up. It is our internal battery recharger. We get downloads and sun codes from the sun that make us remember who and what we are. So my superficial ego was guiding me to lay in the sun. Then I thought, oh my God, it was bad. Then I woke up to what the sun is and I said, thank you, ego. You did me a solid. Thank you. High five your ego. So that's one example. Here's another example I'll give you, just so that it like makes sense, okay? I grew up being the youngest child in a family. And don't get me wrong, I had a great childhood, love my family, but there is something to the birth order. They have made full books on this, okay? I was the youngest. So there were many times I felt not seen or heard. You know, my parents both worked full time. All of my sisters were in tons of sports. We were all always doing something, okay? So there were many times I felt unseen and unheard. Now, what can that look like? That can look like me projecting triggers out onto people, which pre-awakened Maren and awake Maren has done that, yes. But what it also did was triggered me to start a YouTube channel, get on here, and speak my truth. And there may have been egoic reasons behind it in the beginning, like, oh, I was never heard in my life, so I'm gonna get online and I'm just gonna tell everyone my opinion so that I'm heard, damn it. And it might look like that. And it might have looked like that in the beginning, even more so. But, again, me incarnating into a family where I wasn't heard triggered me to want to get online and be heard. Therefore, that ego of me needing to be heard pushed me to the forefront to make videos, and I know now that I'm an activator. I know that I'm meant to speak to a large amount of people because we carry activation codes in our voice. Us starseeds activate other starseeds when we're talking. So yeah, maybe at first I wanted to start a channel because I was like, I need to be heard, but my ego was internally guiding that. I hope this video makes sense, because when I had the aha moment, I was like, oh my god, our egos are doing us solids all the time, you guys. It's an internal guidance. It's like your internal little wizard that you have within you before you're even aware of what an intuition is, before you even know any of these things, before you trust your inner guidance. There was something pulling me to do all of these things that can look egotistical, but there's a silver lining to it somehow, some way. And then I went and looked at like all these little like egoic things that I did without my life before I was awake, and I was like, oh my god, there was a silver lining to that. We can't even, we came here with a mission, you guys, and before we're awake, if you try to sway off your path, your ego somehow brings you back on it by doing egoic things, but underneath that egoic layer, there's a benefit to you. There's a benefit to the whole bigger picture. And I started thinking about these things, and I was like, oh my god, there was always a silver lining. Just like what's going on in the world. And I've made videos about this. There's always a silver lining. You have all the black pilling fear pushers saying, you know, all the food plants are burning down. Oh my god, there's going to be food shortages. So that's the scary part. But the silver lining, the other side of it, underneath the egoic thing we're seeing here, like, oh my god, they're trying to cause food shortages. And at the same time, some of us know the disgusting, horrific things they have done in those plants. Underneath those food plants, they do satanic rituals. They put ungodly things in the food. We're not going to talk about that right now. But if you know, you know. Those plants have so much demonic energy, they needed to burn down. They needed to burn down and crumble so we can rebuild. So do you see what I'm saying? Think about all of these little things that we bash our ego for, but it was our internal compass before we were awake. Like, whoever was the first person to say that our egos are bad? Our egos are that little compass within us that help nudge us to things when we don't know what the fuck we're doing. When we're asleep, our ego is awake and saying, hey, all right, well, if she's going to be caught up in the superficial matrix, let's have her be pulled to this. And then somehow, some way, then you wake up and say, oh, it looked like it was a superficial thing you were doing, but it was actually benefiting you underneath it all. It was actually something that you needed. I guarantee you, if you think about times where you said, oh my god, I was in my ego, think of how it was actually helping you. We need to stop demonizing our ego. If we're demonizing our ego, we are demonizing part of who we are. And who does that? Who tells you you're born not perfect and you have to do A, B, and C to be perfect. Sounds a little religious, doesn't it? I see it all over the spiritual community. Oh, lose your ego, ego death. Hello? We need to give our ego gratitude. Your ego is your friend. I also have a whole video about how our egos are our biggest teachers. When you're triggered with something that hurts your ego, that is a big red button for you to go, oh, why am I triggered? What is this trying to teach me? Why am I getting mad that they're doing this? Am I somehow doing that too? I'm mad at her for being a certain way. Maybe it's because I'm that certain way and I'm deflecting onto her and not facing my own inner shadows. Do you see? So if you're interested in that, I have a whole video on that. Check it out. I'll link it down below. But then I had these other aha moments, and it's like, oh my God, our ego is really like doing us so many solids before we're awake. And it's disguised as these egoic things, but underneath it, there's a beneficial reason. And I really haven't heard anybody talk about this ever. And it was like this download that came in, and I was like, yeah, man, our egos are our little friends when we're not awake, guiding us and pulling us to our path, even though it might not look like it on the surface. So it's something to think about. Why are we bashing part of ourselves? If we're hating our ego, are we not hating part of ourselves? Is the whole spiritual journey not about self-love and loving every single part of us? Why do we think we're born needing to have an ego death or get rid of ego? It's our biggest teacher. So let me know what you guys think about this. And let me know in the comments below how you can if you can think of times where your ego was actually guiding you to your path, because I'm really curious to know, because it's like once I started thinking about little things like that, I was like, wow, my ego really had my back over the years. And I'm not gonna try to fight it anymore and say you need to go away. I'm gonna give it gratitude for where and how it's led me, and for being a teacher. We cannot hate parts of ourselves and say, oh, we're whole, I love myself, I'm whole within, but not my ego. It doesn't work like that. So let me know what you guys think of this. And to all my lovers out there, I send you love and light. And to all my trifling ass haters, I send you extra love and light and many hugs. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.